Hey, I'm Chris from Make Everything. Today we've got a chainsaw chalked up in my vise, and I'm going to show you the difference between these two types of chainsaw sharpeners, and I'm going to show you how this one can save you time and money. Check it out. So on my workbench, I've got two different types of chainsaw sharpeners. Now, in order to sharpen a chainsaw chain, you don't need very much. You basically need a round file like this and a flat file like this. And you don't need any special jigs, but having them will absolutely help aid in the success of sharpening your chain and give you a more consistent cut. A chainsaw chain tooth consists of two parts, a tooth and a raker. And when you're sharpening the chain, you want to make sure that you sharpen the tooth and file the raker evenly. Now, something like this comes with a guide, and you would use this and the guide in order to sharpen your chain. Now, something like this accomplishes the same goal, but it does it all in one tool. This is called a Chainsharp, and it's made by Pferd Abrasives. You may have also seen this same thing, but branded with still logos on it, which is the exact same tool, just licensed under a different name. Now, essentially what this is three files in one, all built into this guide. You've got two round files and one flat file. And as you can see, they're all replaceable. You can pop open the back of the tool and you can change out the files if and when they get dull. So the way this thing works with having those three files in there in collaboration with these metal bars and these lines allows you to sharpen each tooth of your chainsaw chain in one motion without having to go back and use a guide to file down the rakers. Now, these are designed and sold for specific size chains. A very common chain you're going to see on a consumer or even a professional chainsaw is 3/8. So this one that I'm holding is for 3/8, but they also make it in larger sizes for when I've had bigger saws. This is for a 404 chain, which uses a slightly larger round file, but the same square file. Okay, so you've got two main components on a chainsaw chain tooth. You've got the cutter and the raker. Now, the idea here is that the cutter is always just slightly higher than the raker. The raker is basically just to keep your cutter from taking too large of a bite, which would bog down the saw. Now, there are multiple different types of gauges that you can get to check the height of your raker, and this one has a soft and a hard marking on it. So if you're cutting softwood, you would use this one. If you're cutting hardwood, you would use this one. And basically what you're going to do is rest that on the tooth, back it up against it, and you can see that if I take a flat file, I'm just getting a little bit of my raker. Now, you don't want to file these too much because if they're uneven, then each one of your teeth is going to cut unevenly. Now, when you're using a more traditional round file for your tooth and then a flat file for the raker, you have to use gauges or guides in order to really do this precisely. What a lot of experienced kind of chainsaw users will do is they'll count the strokes, but at the end of the day, it is a little bit subjective because you might start off pushing a little more pressure, and then by the time you get to the last tooth, you're not pushing as much. So using something like this with a gauge is really the best way to get your rakers all filed evenly. So every part of this tool has little things to help you on it. These act as guides so that you don't dig in too hard. They sit on other parts of the chain. And then these lines in the plastic and then these little laser etch lines are supposed to be parallel with the saw bar to keep your angle correct as you're filing. Now, you can see as I'm pushing this, I'm grinding both the raker and inside the tooth with the round file and then this flat file. When I flip the tool over, I accomplish the same thing on the opposing tooth, with the arrows and the markings. So now that I've showed you kind of how both of these would work on a chain, we're going to head up to my property in upstate New York, and I'm going to show you how quickly you can sharpen a chain using one of these in the field.
So this steel 38 has a 16-inch bar on it. I'm gonna sharpen this chain, and I'll share how long it takes to do it, both teeth and rakers all the way around. And a tip, when you're sharpening a chainsaw chain, you always wanna make sure that you sharpen all of the links evenly. So what I like to do is I like to mark one of the teeth as my start and stop point, and then I'll go around the whole chain and I'll sharpen every tooth. All right, so in just a couple minutes, this chain is sharpened. You can see the sharpening marks on the rakers. Now let's go over to a log or something and cut it up and see how this thing performs.
All right, that about does it for this video. As you can see, I'm able to touch up a chain really quickly with one of these. My saw wasn't running so great, but I was able to get a far better cut out of it than I was after running it all day in the mud and dirt up in upstate New York. We cut down a lot of dead trees that day that had a lot of like sand and dirt in them. So getting that chain sharpened definitely made a difference. Now, something like this is great, and it is definitely going to save you time and money, but having one of these more manual style chain files with a raker guide is really helpful too, because as you saw in the video, there is a soft and a hardwood kind of height setting that you get on something like this. And if you are cutting specific wood, you may want to learn how to use one of these because you can tune your saw in just a little bit better. Now, I can't tell you how many people I used to see when I worked in a hardware store years ago come in and just ask for a chainsaw file. And they don't realize that if they don't file their rakers, they're not really helping themselves. So many people would come in and either buy one of these and then come back 20 minutes later and just buy a whole new chain, or they would just give up and just say, you know what, I'm gonna hire somebody to cut down my trees. Being able to sharpen your chainsaw chain with something like this that you can throw in your back pocket is absolutely helpful. And I also sharpen my 62-inch bar milling chain with one of these, and it makes a huge difference in the amount of time it takes. Before, I was using one of these and a file guide, and it would take me almost an hour to sharpen a 14-foot chain, and now I can do it in minutes using one of these just because it's so much faster doing it in one stroke. That being said, this uses a 30-degree angle with its guides, and if you're going to be using a milling chain, you're going to be using, I believe, a 10-degree angle if I remember correctly. So you're going to have to kind of manually sight that angle when you file it, but once you get used to it, it's pretty easy. I'll leave links down in the description where you can check these out. Again, like I said, they make them in a couple different sizes, so you're going to want to make sure that you check the size of your chain, whether it be 3/8 or micro 3/8 or something in between, and you want to make sure that you get one of these that matches that. I want to thank Pferd Abrasives for sponsoring this video and sponsoring my shop. They provide me with a lot of abrasives, but I will say I bought myself one of these far before I started working for Pferd, and you may have seen one of these branded with kind of still colors and logos because they license it and they sell it as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. And if you did enjoy it, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this and more videos in my shop, making stuff and talking about cool tools, all sorts of things. If you want to see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, follow me right here at Make Everything Shop. I'm always sharing behind the scenes videos and photos of what I'm working on, little sneak peeks on some of the bigger projects that I do here at the shop. Again, I'm Chris Zepp from Make Everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video.